Welcome to Speak on Stage. On today's show, I don't know how many people are going to turn up today, but it's going to be rather good. We're looking at 10 career-defining management skills that you're currently missing and how to get hold of them. And the details are available within the comment section, within the post, if you're on it, on Speak on Stage. But we're going to be discussing that and more with a ton of people who are going to share their thoughts, their ideas, and hopefully generate some new stuff, which even I couldn't think of. So that's all coming up next on this episode. Do not go anywhere else. This is Speak on Stage. So then, let's see who's on the show. And here we are broadcasting live. It's always exciting to be able to do this because I end up pressing the wrong buttons and stuff disappears. Welcome to Speak on Stage. My name is Dave Crane. We're joined by my lovely wife, Aziza Crane, who may or may not say hello, depending on what sort of day it is and what kind of mood she's in today. I think you're in a good mood today, aren't you, Aziza?
Yeah.
Wow, that's the most non-committal committal I've ever heard. So today's session was born out of the conversations that we had last week, and I want to be able to go through a large amount of them because I think they're very, very useful and important. Last week, we talked about different areas of being able to raise your game as a speaker or able to get the speaking skills in a corporate office or in a work structure to be able to do more effective communications. But we didn't really dwell too heavily on what the skills would actually be and how those would impact you. And that's kind of what I wanted to lean into today. Because whenever we do a live broadcast, and we record it like today's session is being recorded, I like to make sure that we can get as many different ideas and insights together as possible. Then sometimes we just go into the actual nuts and bolts of the main subject, but sometimes it takes us, to a different direction. I'm more than happy for that to happen as well, because it makes for a very fascinating and interesting conversation. And so there we go. Now, I haven't asked you, because obviously I lived with you, you're my wife, how your week has gone. How was it? Oh, don't we talk about it?
Oh, it's good. You can say it.
Okay. Do you want me to give a potted version that you can tell me off for later on?
No, just go ahead.
Okay. It was a horrible week. It was just a horrible week of people not getting back to us and chasing our tails in many cases. And sometimes we forget that it's the beginning of September and the beginning of a normal work season, certainly in the events industry. And so it can be very frustrating. So I found it to be a very frustrating week, but I'm glad we got the weekend. And then we start in the middle of September, so hopefully everything gets much better and much bigger from there. Now, as we're going live across everything, and I know Almasa has joined us, great to see Almasa, and hopefully people are looking at the Turbo group, and there's chatter in amongst all the people. If you can drop into the Turbo group, come and join us, we're live, then that'd be really useful, because I spent most of today cleaning out my various laptops and devices because I just had too many videos and cookies and things that were clogging up everything. So my computers are very slow. So as I've done that, I haven't really spent a lot of time on anything else. So if you'd like to, I did send a message this morning about 2 hours ago to say, come and join us on the broadcast. But the way it works typically is when you say, come and join us on the broadcast, people look at it and go, what now? And you go, well, no, not now, in a bit. Oh, that in a bit is like Christmas. Christmas is in a bit, not going to do it yet. So it kind of gets like that. So if everyone is happy to share that we're live, and send that out. Good to see Stephen as well. Stephen finally joining us. He always threatens to come and join us for conversations. He's got an incredible story, which I'm sure at some point he and I will have a chat about. And today's broadcast is really all about management skills. I don't often go down the route of management skills. I'll tell you why I don't do it, because I don't work in corporate, but most of my clients are in corporate. So whenever I speak at an event or do training, or do speaker training, I realize that a large amount of people will never want to be on a microphone on a big stage, but they do communicate every single day. So that's why I'm shifting it slightly, because I think that there's a lot more to the actual position of what management skills you need that involve a lot of communication, but not necessarily making a podcast or something along the lines of that, which is normally held to the elite or the big bosses in every situation. So, as I mentioned, if everyone can just mention that we're going live, you do have it built into your post here on LinkedIn. If you go to where it says share, which is normally, I think, a blue button, I don't touch anything in case it suddenly disappears in the middle of things, which it does with the algorithm and the system here at LinkedIn. And just share and say we're going live. Would you like to join us? And hopefully that'll make lots of people go, yeah, this is great. We want to come along. It's fantastic. Otherwise, as I mentioned, every week we end up with a rush of people just as we're about to begin, because we only do it for an hour. And we say, I'd like to talk. I'd like to come on stage. And we say, no, we've already discussed all that. None of that matters anymore. We've already got a conclusion. Yeah, but let me give my version. No, we don't need your version. It was earlier. We wanted it then. Where were you? I was watching Netflix. Well, you missed it then. So that's kind of what happens. So here's the thing, Aziza. When you and I work, and we work together but kind of separately as well, I tend to do a lot of stuff that's in front of camera and in front of microphones. You tend to do a lot of work behind the scenes. What do you think, and put you on the spot now, are the biggest challenges that when you talk to people, they really don't have a clue about doing, and they're working in the corporate market, as in working and running a business that supports other businesses, working with government or working with industry? What do you think the skills are missing for managers? The ability to program stuff, to communicate with stuff, or even bring apps in to their business and implement them properly?
I think what they're missing, some of them are being empowered to make decisions faster. So whoever I speak to, they're like, yeah, I'll come back to you regarding everything. And then they have to wait for basically permission to speak to their upper management. And then they go, oh, they're busy. Oh, yeah. And then even if they get anything, they don't reply back. And that's one of the biggest issue that I have to face, where I have to chase after people. Did you get it? Is it done? Is it going? Is it moving forward? They just don't. They don't. I don't know whether they're scared to send an email from their work email to say, right, so go ahead, or they just forget, or it's not part of their natural process to just communicate back with the client.
Yeah, I think it's because it depends on the management structure of many organizations, and I'm willing to open to the audience who joined us to be able to see their thoughts on it. But often, if you're talking to anybody who's less than the big decision maker, then there's a pecking order of who can define what needs to happen next. And so if they pitch it to the boss and they're waiting for the boss to get back and the boss is traveling or busy, they can't really shake the boss and say, come on, give me an answer, without having repercussions for them personally. Now, sometimes the boss uses people as a delaying tactic, and sometimes the boss doesn't have a particularly favorable opinion of the person who's pitching for them. So they're representing you, they're talking to the boss doesn't really think they're very good at anything, or not good enough to bring that idea, or they've got some other stuff planned. And so if you chase up those people, then it's really hard to get them necessarily to be able to get you a response, because nobody's responding to them. And so it could be a number of different elements like that can delay stuff. So I think that's what's at the heart of that, which is why whenever we do business with anybody in particular, we only ask for the decision maker. Are you a decision maker in this process? If the answer is no, then we say, well, can you point to the person who is? And when we say, well, the person who is traveling, okay, when are they going to be back so I can contact you then? I just think you save a lot of heartache and a lot of chasing up. The challenge for us based in the UAE, and I don't think it matters about the UAE, I think it's the same pretty much everywhere around the world, is on the summer, a lot of decision makers do travel, and so they have somebody else who's looking after their emails or deciding on their behalf, but they can't really decide. They're more like a caretaker who switches on the lights and switches off the lights afterwards, which makes it very difficult to get that decision made and sent back to you, because they'll say, oh, yeah, well, I'll let you know. And then the boss comes back and says, right, get all that stuff off my desk, get your feet off, and leave. And then we get back in. And so if you've been pitching during that time, it's really difficult. So that's maybe one area that gets covered by that. If you've got a thought on this, if you have a particular area of discussion that you'd like to contribute, then we'd like to know. If you just joined us for the first time, as many people have, I'd like to show you the housekeeping rules. Basically, we are fascinated by what you can contribute to our direction of the conversation, but we don't need to have your entire, back history and biography. And I went to Yale, I went to Harvard, and I started my first business. And then when I started doing it, fine, get to the point because we've only got an hour to do it. So we can see from your CV or from your profile, if you've done it the right way on LinkedIn, who you are and what you do. But we ideally like to have, say, 30 to 60 seconds of contribution, as then we can throw it back at the group and somebody else can jump in. And when it comes to bounce around and get the very best out of everybody. So I'm just saying that because sometimes it can take a bit longer for people to go on and get to the point of what they're trying to say, in which case I've got to interrupt them on behalf of everybody else. And it sounds really rude. I've gone past caring. I just want to make sure that we get the best for everybody during the session. So we're now starting to see people joining us. Now see Nitin Sapri, who I go back with at least 20 years in Dubai. And then he escaped to do incredible things in Oman and so on. And he works in the car rental industry. Haven't talked to you for ages, Nitin, but it's a real pleasure to see you in this group, at least for the time that you're going to afford us, because I know you're a very busy decision maker in the industry. So the question here is about defining your industry and defining what it is that you need as extra skills. In fact, Nitin's going to join us, and I know Aziza knows you as well. Good to talk to you, my friend. How are you?
Very good, Dave. Very good. A great pleasure to connect with you here on this forum.
I know, it's
It's been,
amazing, isn't it? Are you still in Oman?
I'm still in Oman. I take care of Oman and Bahrain.
Wow. We,
Mm.
we we
So,
need to definitely have a catch up because it's been a long time with the stuff you're doing, the Europe car, Gold car, and of course Oman and Bahrain. Now, when we're talking about management skills, you must. How many staff do you have working under you then as a CEO?
we have around 125 people.
Okay, so when you're looking after all these different people, what do you find are the biggest challenges as the boss to get them to upskill themselves? What's missing
You know,
most of all?
Dave, I've been very, very lucky. I've been here for last 11 years, Dave, and I haven't had a staff member leave me.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got the best of retention rate. We've provided a beautiful, positive work culture, and it's a decentralized system, so everyone's self motivated, empowered, and we have provided probably the best offices in the Middle East. One of the best offices. You have to visit our place in Oman, Muscat.
I
Uh,
de-
you you will you will not see these kind of offices, the kind of facilities we have. They're more like Google and Microsoft kind of offices.
Excellent. I look forward to having a cup of boba tea and playing pool at the same time as we chat about your management stuff. So, for 11 years, you've been bringing this incredible culture into your organization. What did you have to do to make that possible? Congratulations on nobody leaving in 11 years. And we know from certain countries it could be because they couldn't get their passport back. I'm sure that's not the case for you. What is it you've done to make sure that these people are so loving of the environment that they just want to stay there forever?
No, no. We see first. I think there's a little bit of a story. It's a long story, but maybe Dave, is this a good time to talk of this story?
Well,
It's a long one.
don't do the long story.
So,
Just do the bullet points. We'll do the long story
no,
another
no,
time.
yeah, yeah, no. The bullet points is basically it's been a turnaround story. 11 years ago I turned the business around. And the way I did it was I actually put the right people in the right place. They were the same people doing different kinds of jobs when I came in, and so we put them in the right place, right people. We upskilled them. They went through a lot of training programs locally and internationally. So this team has been completely they're worldly traveled. They've picked up skills from various countries. So which has given them the exposure, the confidence, and I make sure all our department heads and their teams, everyone, it's a free culture we have. You will not believe people can come and go at any time as long as they have the individual performance measures. They have the KPIs. They can go and come at any time. We have no kind of restrictions. We have given them all kinds of support at workplace. So it's like we have fostered a kind of a family environment. So and the ownership has been transformed. So I'm actually given the ownership to the team. I don't make any decisions. It's a kind of a down the line decisions are taken, and every individual staff is empowered, and there is freedom to do whatever you want to do. And we give huge incentives. They're the best paid staff. They get the best incentives in the industry, plus the environment everyone's empowered. So it's all collective. I'll give you a simple example. We have a medical a rule where if a staff is absent because of sickness, then he has to produce a medical certificate. We don't care. Our sick staff can work from home. No need to produce a certificate, just work from home. So all these flexible things, and the commitment of staff is enormous. You'll not believe, last couple of months ago, we had a staff admitted to the hospital for being treated. And I went to visit him, and I saw him working on a laptop in the hospital. I could not believe it. I said, what the hell is happening, guy? You're admitted to hospital and you're still thinking of work. So that's the kind of culture we have created. It's incredible. Small things. Of course, you pay them well, you incentivize them well, but people need to feel belongingness. The ownership needs to be transferred, and that somehow has happened in our case.
Well, congratulations. I can tell that even from this call, you're going to be inundated with people saying, can I get a job in Oman and Bahrain, please, Mr. Sapri? Here's my CV. But when you start empowering people, you make a big difference. And when you've had 11 years to do it and you've got ups and downs and goods and bads, and I know you already did this when you worked at Hertz in Dubai, you did a really
That's
effective
right.
job. So when you look around, and it does start from the top, what is it you see in other organizations that stop them being as successful as yours?
In fact, I recently had the Oman American Business Council event in our office. We also use our office as a networking.
Sorry, I lost you there. I'm not sure if I've lost you and everyone else has lost you. Aziza, can you still hear Nitin, or is it gone? Oh, it's my internet.
What is missing out in the other companies? It has to perfectly. I think it has to perfectly fall in place. In my case, I've been lucky. God has been very kind. It has beautifully fallen in place. My vision, has been translated by the team which I've developed, and so it's. I think which most companies miss. They either micromanage. They don't give enough sufficient transfer of ownership to the employees. Employees have to feel belongingness. I don't have absenteeism problem. I don't have last 11 years. No one has left us. So most organizations have a toxic work culture, unfortunately, and there are politics. In my organization, there are no politics. Touch wood, touch wood, touch wood.
Is the politics generally because the boss has left it? I work for one organization, which will remain nameless, where the boss loved to have internal disputes, because when that happened, everyone wasn't looking at him and saying, why don't you make conditions better? He loved people to fight between them because it meant the focus was somewhere else. And I know that that's typical in many companies.
I know, absolutely. See, in my company, there's no politics, and my policy is very simple. If something goes wrong in the company, I take full ownership. If something goes good, I give the full credit. Simple. It's not a brainer. If something goes wrong, it has to be me. Something I have done wrong, maybe taken a wrong decision, maybe whatever I have done. So I take the full blame. So staff don't have the fear. There's no fear. And I have made sure all my direct reports and their team. So all my direct reports, I make sure that they follow the same culture and it's in the same. No one in the team should feel beaten up or have some. So I think it's important to create that positive work culture where people and we have some fantastic facilities there. I'm telling you, you have to come to see my office. Very few private companies in the region would have the facilities which we have.
That's beautiful. I want to ask you a question about the number of people in your company, because I remember reading that if you had a car park, I can't remember, it was a Swedish company, that they say you can have the relationship with up to about 150 people. When it gets beyond that, it's really difficult to remember people's names, like in an organization, because then you would have a second car park that you'd need to put people in, because it spills over in terms of the relationships you can have and in terms of the actual numbers of defining an organization. Have you stayed at about 150? And if you were to expand it and say double it, do you think your job would be more difficult to be able to?
No. I don't think so, because at Hertz in Dubai, when I left them, when I started, we were 16 cars, 5 people. When I left them, we were 9,500 vehicles and 350 people. So that was Hertz in Dubai. So I don't think so, and you have to be visible. And it's also, there's a term which is used, management by walking around. You cannot be sitting in your corner office and closed doors. You got to be, and visibility brings you credibility. So you got to be visible to your team and customers. And another secret I'm going to tell you, everyone boasts that you have to focus on your customers. Correct, Dave? We've heard this.
Yep.
Your customer is king. Customer is king. We have to focus on our must focus on our customers. I say that is completely bullshit. I don't even care. I, I'm talking something, I don't even care about my customers or our customers. I only focus on staff. That's it. Staff is my customers. If I take care of the team takes care of our customers. And just to let you know, you go to any online site, booking.com, rentalcars.com, Expedia, millions of other sites where our rates are displayed, and Europe, Oman, and Bahrain is displayed. We have got the highest customer ratings.
You know what I love about this conversation, not least because it's a chance to catch up with you again, is when I look back at when you and I joined an organization called BNI, which is Business Networking International, and we're in there for about 2 years together, so we got
Yeah.
to know each other really well. And one of the things that was successful about our particular chapter was exactly what you're talking about now. We all got on with each other. And therefore, when people arrived, it was addictive. They wanted to join us.
Absolutely, and we were part of the first chapter. I remember that. And another thing, Dave, slight digression from the topic is, you see, every company. So first is the customer is the king. Focus on the customer. I focus on the employees. That's the key thing. The other thing is we talk of corporate social responsibility. Correct?
Yep.
We also do it. Every year we support a cause. This year we're supporting Oman Cancer Association. And last year we supported autism. Before that we supported Oman Environmental Society. Every year we pick up a cause, support them in terms of money, support them in terms of time hours, employee hours, give them resources. So we are really committed. We are sort of married to the cause for the full year. Now this year we're supporting Oman Breast Cancer Association. Now this is the external cause. I have coined another term, internal corporate social responsibility. In my budget, we have a budget for external corporate social responsibility. We put an annual amount to be working towards that external corporate social. I have an amount for internal corporate social responsibility. Any staff, suppose a staff of mine lost his father in Bahrain, and they didn't have that staff comes from an economically backward background, unfortunately, and they didn't have money to support. The company funded it. Company funded the full funeral arrangements, everything what was required, hospitalization, this, that, and mostly the funeral arrangements. So this is what we do. There was a flood in Oman a few years ago, and a couple of our staff got wiped out. Houses got wiped out, cars went off. The company came to the rescue. The company gave them the vehicles. Company gave them the food and ration, and company gave them temporary accommodation. So this is from our company's budget. So I'm just giving you two examples of internal corporate social responsibility. So this rubs on people, and they see what's happening. And the company cares for its people. And it's just not talk, it's action.
I love this, Nitin. I'm going to open the floor up to other people who are in the audience paying attention to this because
I don't want to bore everyone now.
Oh, you're not boring. It's fascinating. I love hearing your view. But I'm going to come back to you in a moment because I want to open it up. I know we've got Almasa, Stephen, Adna, Zara, Frank, Johan, Tamrat, and Monica, who are all thinking about whether they want to join in or not. I want to throw one last question at you, Nitin, but also if anybody also wants to join us on stage, just put your hand up and then we'll give you an opportunity to say your piece. I look at the way the world is right now, and I spend a lot of time with thought leadership and working with people around the world in this particular field now. And I look at, so I won't mention names because people know people, but I look at some of the biggest names in the world thought leadership position, people who are usually in the tech space, who have incredibly toxic organizations, but are making the decisions that are shaping the way that humanity is going. And I worry badly about the fact that this is seen as the way to look after staff. And so they end up with lawsuits all the time and people who are really unhappy. But because their tech and AI drives them faster towards where they want to be, it's really hard for governments to turn around and say, don't do it. What would you say, without naming names, you could do to make them see things differently? Or what would you say they could do to turn things around based on what you know of what you've done with your own organization?
Dave, this is a long answer. I would suggest, my request to you is get someone else on the line from these guys, and I will again jump in the middle. It's a good question.
It's what I think about all the time because I see them all being interviewed on big debates and big conversations, and they couldn't care less about the person. They couldn't care less about the interviewer. They couldn't care less about the public. They couldn't care less about their staff. They're making incredible amounts of money and shaping the world. And sometimes
That
it kind of offsets what the world's meant to be about in the first place.
No, that is true. That is true, and that's why you have these tech burnouts and people quitting careers midway. People can't survive this kind of pace and toxic work culture. And I agree, but the trend of AI and stuff like that, they're riding on that wave. But at some point in time, it'll come back. It'll come back to bite them.
Well, I often hope so, without me losing my ability to get access to AI, because I kind of love it at the moment. Zara, you've just joined us on stage. Nice to talk to you as always. What's your thoughts on this particular area of conversation?
Dave, I just wanted to add something. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. When Nitin was saying, "Hey, customers," I don't focus on the customers because they're lazy. That's not right. They are the king. Okay, they are the king. But then that reminded me of a research which I was doing lately, and it was about customer is always right. And then what I find is customer is always right. It was always something like, because your job is to make customer feel right even when he's wrong. So that reminded me of something. I can come up and share some little bit about that customer thingy that is going on all around the world. When you're taking care of the employees, everything goes right. This is absolutely true. And yes, I've suffered this politics here in Pakistan, mostly in this part of the world where India and Pakistan, these countries where people have to suffer a lot with this politic thing. But yeah, and on that part of the world, Dubai or Oman, the government are taking care of every little things. They have rules and regulations following up for the employees or for the organizations that are working. So absolutely, Nitin, best of luck. Dave, thank you so much for putting me up on stage. Aziza.
Thank you, Zara. I'm not sure what you were saying there, but it meant a lot. Here's one of the things I think that's very true about what Nitin was saying as well, and you were kind of hinting at it as well, is something as a life coach I borrowed from a guy called Wayne Dyer, who's a very famous philosopher and thinker. And he was saying that if you squeeze an orange, what comes out? And the answer is orange juice. Why? Because it's an orange. So when you squeeze people and what comes out? Well, whatever their view of the world is. So if somebody internally is really thinking the world's horrible, and if you do this, everyone's going to get you, and people are going to steal, and all the rest of it, it's because internally they're not particularly happy with themselves. When you got somebody who's happy with the world and the way it is and the way they fit in with it, they're a lot more generous about the way they see the world. Their filters are very different. And so I believe what Nitin was saying is by getting his staff to be very happy in their own skin, it's not a focus necessarily on the customers being right or wrong. It's a focus on the fact that you can deal with anything because you're actually feeling good about the world. And I know Edwin's going to join us in a second. Nitin, does that reflect what your thoughts are? Oh, Nitin, your microphone's on, but you.
Sorry. Should I switch
No, it's
off my
okay.
mic?
I was actually asking you a question there about the fact that if your staff are happy, then that reflects on their view of the outside world. So when people encounter them, they encounter happy people, which means that they get good results.
Oh no, absolutely. I forgot to mention. Can I mention one more point?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. When we're talking of staff and taking care of them, I forgot. See, we now I'll give it up. Let people know we have a wellness lounge in our office.
Right.
Okay. Now, this wellness lounge obviously has got gym and yoga and the whole bit. But that's the physical infrastructure. I have also given the soft infrastructure. With the wellness lounge comes a nutritionist to set up all of the diet programs for all the staff. And we have an expat nutritionist, we have an Omani nutritionist here in Muscat. So all our staff can be monitored. We have introduced technology in this. Everyone's got a wristband and stuff like that. They can monitor their weight and stuff like that. So we have a nutritionist. Then we have a mental health counselor. Staff can consult a mental health counselor in private without us knowing. So that has been provided, all paid by the company. We, of course, have a gym trainer coming in. We have a yoga instructor coming in for men and women. So we have a full wellness lounge concept in our office. So we call it a wellness lounge, not a gym and a yoga, but a wellness lounge. And then, of course, we have the energized lounge, which is the second area where we have all the gaming areas. Every possible game you can think of is in the energized lounge. We call it the energized lounge. Then no, so these are the kind of areas, and people are free to use. The gym and lounge has got a shower facilities, locker facilities, so people can use it anytime. Even if during your work you want to feel tired, stressed, go and do whatever you want to do.
It's amazing.
So yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Nitin, for sharing that. It's really
Thank
important to know the places we should be working instead of the choices that many other people have made with that. I'm sure there's people in the audience who will believe that as well. So go on.
And another toxic trait of organizations is, which we don't have, is working late. Working late means you're a star. You're the most productive staff. I have a policy: work gets over 5 o'clock, 5:30. Everyone must leave. There is nothing people should. Okay, once in a while you might want to stay late and do something, catch up, but there is nothing going to catch fire. You have to leave the office, work during office hours, do something. You play, use the energized lounge, use the wellness lounge, or go home with family. You cannot stay late. So we don't have a late work culture.
That's amazing because it's kind of encouraged in the corporate world. The more effort you put in, the more you'll be looked at as a go-getter that needs to be promoted. But one of the things is if you don't have a weekend, then you don't switch off and you end up with a worse performance as it goes on.
Absolutely. And with the technology which we have, we need to work smart, not work hard. At least I believe in that, and that's what's filtering around. People need to work hard, work smart, not work hard, and work late, crazy burnout hours. No, it doesn't happen. So that's why I have a 100% track record of no staff leaving. Actually, I'm not telling the truth. 3 staff did leave us in the last 11 years, but the funny part is they have come back. And
I knew you were going to say something like that. It had to be true. We've just got Edwin to join us on stage. Edwin, if you open up your mic and share with us your thoughts as well. I see that you're a pastor. Whereabouts are you based? Edwin, you want to unmic yourself? Hello, Edwin. Are you there? Can you hear me? I don't know if you've got the button, which is bottom right on your device. If you're on a laptop or if you're on your phone, then there should be a bottom right mute button. Just press that and it should unmute you. And then you should be able to share your thoughts with our group. If not, for everybody who's just joined us, we've kind of shifted from that original conversation, which is about 10 career-defining management skills you're currently missing, because we went straight to the top of the food chain, talking to my old dear friend Nitin, who runs a big organization that's very effective in the Middle East. And from a CEO point of view, he shared what it is that people need to do to be effective with their staff and with their customers, especially if you're a decision maker based in that. So that's been fascinating. We will return back to the original conversation, which is 10 career defining management skills. If you want to know more about them, by the way, I have actually included them in the details of this post if you want to go through them. And they're all different communication skills that come down to being able to be more effective, because if your boss or if yourself does not try and get more out of things and out of you, it's very easy to miss out on these points and to feel that you're missing out when you see other people doing particularly well. So, Charito, nice to see you joining us on stage again. How are you? And I see you've changed your picture on your profile. So there you go.
I was playing, Dave.
I can tell you look very different. You've just lost about 20 years, but I'm not saying anything else.
So spot on. Yes, 20 years younger. That picture. Okay. Good afternoon, Dave.
Good afternoon. Is that your Tinder picture, by the way? Is that the one you put on dating apps?
Come again? No, I don't have dating apps.
Okay, I'm being nosy. It's nothing to do with me. Carry on anyway.
Only for LinkedIn. I'm using AI.
Wonderful.
They dress us up on this.
Good for you.
Oh, Dave. Good afternoon, everyone. I have my friends there, Tamara. Yeah, Frank. And there is there. Sorry, I could not look down because of the words. I am just up here because I would like to ask Nitin Sapri, the Europe car in the Philippines still under you? Nitin.
What's the question? Is his car, his own personal car, still under him, or because he runs a car hire company?
Yeah,
No,
I know.
no.
Because we have Europe car in the
Yeah,
Philippines.
the Philippines doesn't come under me. That's in the Asia Pacific region. So
Oh,
someone sitting in Thailand is actually controlling Philippines.
oh, okay. Because I have nice words for Europe car here. They're so
Excellent.
kind. They are so polite, and they're so courteous. I like them. In fact, every time I go to the central Manila of the Philippines,
Uh-huh.
I just called them up and said, "Okay, wait, I know." They knew me. The one in the airport, yes,
Wonderful.
because I usually use Europe car there in Manila when I go,
Uh,
at any time. So that's why I'm asking, because I think they're managed well. They
I
are
will.
so,
Dorito,
yes.
Dorito, I love the fact you're giving compliments to Nitin. It's got nothing to do with our normal conversation. You can turn around and say,
Okay,
I got a car the
I'm
other day and
sorry.
I
I'll
love the
close my
radio
mouth,
in it.
Dave.
Where is
No,
this
but
going? Go on, sorry, Nitin. Go on, up to you.
no. I will pass on your compliments. It's always nice to get a good feedback, and I'll pass on your compliments to the Philippine office. Thank you.
Thank you too. Bye bye.
There you go. Thanks, Chirito, for whatever contribution that was meant to be. It's fascinating. So you jump on the middle of a call and you say, right, I just want to have a quick word with Nitin about his business. And then Nitin goes, oh, I know everybody. I'll make sure. And I'm thinking, why am I holding a podcast? Why don't we just hold a business dating agency? Or we do a BNI or something and everyone just gets together. But I'm happy for the conversations. And it just goes to show that everyone feels comfortable in this room chatting about all sorts of things, even if it's a bit weird and a bit off the story. So let's throw this at the room. We've got a couple of people in there. We've got roughly just less than half an hour to go. We're talking about the career-defining management skills that people are missing. I'd like to know, and if you don't want to jump on stage and speak about it, you're very welcome to put it into the comments section, and we can do that. So if you're in a noisy place, which makes it difficult to speak, and we certainly understand that as well. What is it you feel you're missing in management skills, or what have you come across management not having in organizations that you've worked with? I throw this in because I really need your help with this. I work with my wife Aziza, and we do our own business. We work a lot with corporates, but we deliberately don't have the same positioning as many people's experiences. And the reason I don't have those experiences is I've never enjoyed working in corporate. Too many people have got to be nice to that are not necessarily have my best interests at heart. And so I found that it was better for me to be an entrepreneur and to do my own thing. But I'm always fascinated by other things. So we've got Stephen there as well. Let's go to Almasa first, who's just joined us on stage. Almasa, what's your thoughts on this subject?
Is that me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I don't know what the
Yes.
problems with sound, but we can hear you now anyway.
Okay, so actually, this is a very interesting conversation, and I really praise what Nitin is saying, because I'm like you, Dave. I'm a seasoned-born entrepreneur, and I'm absolutely not into the corporate mind. But the most important is to really give your staff the right mindset. Then the clients will follow, because whenever you provide the right service, you provide the right environment, the right support, everything. You unleash the best out of the people, and then they do whatever they need to upgrade the name they are working for. So as an entrepreneur, yeah.
So I was going to throw at you then, because you're entrepreneurial, and the time I've known you, you've always been doing your own thing, which is working with organizations and also working with individuals. When you made a choice, which is that you prefer to be on the outside, is that because you gave up on the concept of being inside an organization, or do you find there's too many other elements of baggage in most organizations you've worked with that don't appeal to you? Or are you thinking about it and so, oh, it's my internet. My internet keeps going off and refreshing the page. So if I suddenly disappear, I apologize. It's my.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Did you miss the question?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So my internet just reset itself for some strange reason there. What I was saying was, if you're an entrepreneur, did you find that when you worked inside an organization, they just weren't looking after you, growing you, having maybe a toxic environment that made you want to be independent? Because most of my clients, or many of my clients, are actually corporates, but I don't want to actually work inside an organization per se. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I'm very much, I'm a free electron and I'm an alpha wolf. So for me, corporate mindset doesn't work. I have problem with hierarchy because I think this is very toxic. And, you have to shift from competition to collaboration and emulation. Corporate most of the time is about competition and internal jealousy. And, it's not my mindset at all. I'm very much of a rebel, and I'm very much of an adventurous, independent spirit. Totally disruptive thoughts and totally disruptive behavior that I think is the things that shake the society. So corporate is definitely not my world, and I really appreciate to see spirits like Nitin that that inflict that type of spirit into a big corporate company, because Europe Car is a massive holding globally, and to see that type of effort made, it's fantastic.
It is, and I'm gonna throw one question at you. Then we're gonna go to Stephen Windmill, who I've discussed things briefly because he's inside our Turbo group. He's going to put a completely different spin on all the conversations that we had so far. Bearing in mind that you're an entrepreneur, could you see yourself working for an organization, Almasa, if Nitin was running it, or a Nitin-like person was running it, who really looked after the staff and made them feel welcome and made them feel important? If the focus was there, would you see yourself staying in the corporate world?
Definitely, because it's all about the leader, and whenever the leader has that type of mind, he creates, he develops several independent entrepreneurial spirits within the company, because you show the path and you let the people do their provide their best, and you slowly guide them into the entrepreneurial path. So definitely,
Brilliant.
absolutely.
So we have to clone Nitin and put him in every organization in the world. So Nitin, I hope you're ready for some poking, and we'll get there. I'm going to bring up on stage now a gentleman who is incredible, because I know that he ran a army division. That's the wrong phrase to use, probably, of 200,000 soldiers. And he's also responsible for doing deals that go into billions and billions of pounds. And so when we start talking about decision making at the highest level, Stephen Windmill's joined us on stage in that Turbo group, and we've interacted a little bit. Stephen, when you are working at that level, do you still see people below you, or do you see people below the people below you? What's the position for you when you're making those kind of decisions?
Okay. I was actually in command of the Iraqi army under the American General David Petraeus. So I had an entire army, including the Ministry of Defence, National Police, Border Police, all within my pocket. I've also, just to put a little bit of context to other people here, what we've talked about, I planned and ran an £18 billion change programme, and I managed to reduce costs by about 23%, so about 4.3 billion. And I've advised, I think it's 4 different prime ministers, and had a one-on-one breakfast with Obama when he was president.
Wow. Well, that puts you in a very good position to talk about leadership. So what's your thoughts?
Right. So to answer your question is, first of all, in terms of the people I meet, it was largely the people that report to the people that report to me. Mm. So I had tried to limit the number of people that reported to me to about a dozen, because that's the most you can. The military across the world has found that the biggest team that you can actually manage personally is about a dozen.
Right. And so,
And there's masses and masses of research on this topic. Some put it as low as about 9. I know that I can cope with 12 just.
so to put this in
You then put down the
perspective-
number of people that reports to them,
Yeah,
and you're
go on.
looking at about 200 people all up.
Right.
Because everybody's got between 9 and 10 people, 12 people reporting into them. So that's 12 times 12, 144, plus a few others. And then you've got people outside of your chain, downwards chain, the upward chain and sideways, probably another 50.
Am I
So
right in
about
saying with this? Sorry, Stephen, to interrupt you. You're right in saying by when you say 12 people, then it's like a pyramid of 12 on 12 on 12 on 12 until they get to you. Is that kind of how it would look?
Pretty much. If you look at the way most corporates are managed, a supervisor will have between 8 and a dozen people, typically, first line manager.
Right.
Second line manager will have maybe between 8 and 10, 8 and 12 of those supervisors reporting to them, and so on up the pyramid.
Got you. So when you're a decision maker and you've got to make those really sharp decisions about what happens, life and death in case of running an army, do you want to be influenced by people, or do you want to have a standalone decision-making process, knowing that other managers are looking after the stuff that would normally be your day-to-day?
Right. It's a mix. It all depends on the urgency of the decision that you're having to make. If it's something that needs to be done this afternoon, then being autocratic is necessary. If it's something that you're not looking for a result for a year or 2 years in the future, you're looking to shape the environment to make something happen, then that shaping probably requires the influence and even the input of 20, 30, 50 people that you have to get around, get them pointed in roughly the same direction, get a general outline of a plan or a strategy that they'll all follow, and then you make an announcement. So timing is critical. Something short term, you've got to be autocratic. There's no alternative if you want it done your way.
Okay.
If it's longer term, then you really have to bring people with you.
I understand that, and I'm gonna now cross-reference what Nitin is saying to what you're saying, because ultimately, when you're in a position like Nitin, you've looked after a company for 11 years, and you've created superstars internally who don't want to leave and have incredible customer feedback and ROI all the time success. That's great. When you're looking after a country and an army with lots of moving pieces, with different decision-making processes, especially an overseas army, you've got a different culture at the heart of everything. How do you manage to bring everybody onto the same page? Or do you just have to rule by saying this is the way it is and hope that that works, and then just keep an eye on everybody?
Right. I had 8 Iraqi 2-star generals under my command. That's 8 of the regional commanders and the 2-star general in charge of training. I had, of that was a mix of completely on-side, could see what I was trying to do even before I'd finished speaking, to the completely antagonistic. My solution, and I'm not saying that this would work for everybody, is what I call the coffee and donut solution. Mm-hmm. And once we've got the ball beginning to roll, for the people that I'm getting the most opposition from or the most pushback, then I find reasons to go around and have a cup of coffee and maybe a donut. And the coffee and donut approach, so they get one-on-one, it's friendly, it's informal, me sitting on the edge of their desk or on one memorable occasion taking a litre bottle of Johnny Walker and 2 glasses with me, and broke down the barriers by just talking around. And I changed my plan in the talking around, but by accepting what they wanted or didn't want to see happen, I got an 80% buy-in. And I'm quite happy with an 80% buy-in, because the other 20% probably doesn't matter too much. Or if it does matter, it will come about once the train's going a lot faster, or the ball's gathered a lot more momentum.
That's
In
fascinating.
those early days, you don't need complete buy-in. You just need enough for things to start.
It was one of the things that you mentioned there with that 80%. I found really fascinating, because a lot of the time when I was more of a life coach or therapist, whenever I dealt with somebody who was going through challenges in their relationship or were looking for an ideal partner, I said, list 20 things that you really want from that ideal person. When you get 14 of them, that's the one to get. Because another 3 of the 14, up to 17 out of 20, you can kind of mold a little bit. And the 3 that are missing that you don't like, you can deal with because you've got everything else in place. Is that similar to the decision-making process when you're looking at management? So 80% is good, and the other bits you can kind of work your way around. You don't need 100% for it to work.
Yeah, definitely don't need 100%. I know that I'm not right all of the time, but I know that I'm right enough that once the ball is rolling in the general direction that I want, the things that I'm wrong on will very quickly come to light, and things will change. And the things that I want to happen or believe needs to happen, but I can't get them agreed up front, they're either going to happen naturally or there'll be something else that replaces them. So I'm actually comfortable with an 80% solution most of the time.
Brilliant. Well, I know Nitin's got to go and play golf, as you do when you're looking after your team. And we've got about 10, 15 minutes left of today's conversation to continue. So I'm going to say, and I love this, Stephen, we will have this conversation, because one of the things that we talked about, which is a slightly off topic, but it's kind of on topic as well.
Can I go back? Can I just go back to something I nearly interrupted on earlier?
Okay, go on.
It's about senior management, largely in corporates, being out of touch, not listening, or people not having thinking they've got the authority to do stuff. One of the things that myself and my friends like to see is a junior or a middle manager just doing something and then telling me about it later. As long as they don't commit more money than they've got in their budgets, I'm happy, because they've shown some initiative. And the biggest skill gap that I see from my perspective is the lack of confidence in the junior and middle management to actually even try to make a difference. If somebody sticks their hands up and says, I can do this, great, crack on, make it happen. Or if I come back from leave and they say, in your absence, I've arranged this, that, and the other, that's also great.
Why is that? I think that in many organizations across the globe, because we're talking at different places around the world, it's because if you do end up looking stupid or do something that's wrong, most bosses will hold it against you. And not bosses, not the CEOs generally, but lower middle management will turn around and blame you. I mean, this goes, if we talk about public speaking, for instance, the reason why many people are scared to speak in public is because when there are kids at school and they asked a question that the teacher turned around and said it's a ridiculous question, maybe because the teacher was tired or maybe because it was off topic, and people say, ha, stupid question, and so they learn never to do that again, and so they bring up themselves a fear of public speaking. So in management, that would be a similar thing. You don't want to end up doing something that gets criticized, but the truth is, when you, especially in a new environment or a really important new policy, you've got to trust your management to do all that stuff where you put it forward. Some things will work, some things that won't work, but it'll only work if you empower people to take risks.
There was a mantra that somebody I respect drilled into me, and I'm sure everybody's heard of it, and that is, it's easier to apologize than to seek approval.
Yep. Yes.
So just making it happen. If it goes wrong, apologize. Sorry, boss, I thought it was a grand idea because da-da-da-da-dum. I won't be doing that again.
Yep. Agree with that 100%. I've done that many times myself.
Yeah, and that was drilled into me, like I said, by a Dr. Bryn Edwards, who was my supervisor back in a million years ago. Just do it.
Well,
And as long as it's...
my signature phase on that, Stephen, is jump and grow wings on the way down. And that's what I live by, because I really think it's on the same topic as well. We're running short of time, so I'm going to let Amasa say her bit that she's going to say. Got about 9 minutes left. And for anybody else in the group who I'm sure has been fascinated by the conversations we've had, if you want to contribute by jumping on stage and putting your hand up and sharing what you think of what we've talked about, or more close to the actual subject, then now's your time to do it. Almasa, you just joined us back on stage again. What did you want to add?
Yeah. What I want to say is that very often hierarchies suffocate talents. So that's mean, when you are a junior, you don't have the power of speaking, and you need to go through a lot of scale on the ladder. And sometimes, you can have people blocking your way. That's what I want to say. And military process is very well organized, and corporate, you have to go through different scales and people that can definitely block the talents of the junior, that can bring some new disruptive ideas that will not match with some of the classic structure that is into place. That's what I wanted to say.
I agree with you on that as well. I think there's a lot to be said for the way that well, I would take it all the way back. We're talking today's subject has moved quite a lot. It's less about the management skills you're missing. It's more about how people get empowered to be able to move forward. And I'd like to pivot slightly in the time that we've got, because my daughter was involved in some debating event this week, and she had about 3 minutes to deliver a presentation or a speech where everybody loved it, but she wasn't placed on the scoring. So people came up to her and said, "Oh, you did really well. You should have won," but she didn't. And so she's quite upset on why people didn't like it. Not too upset, but a little bit upset. And I said, sometimes you've got to look at the environment that you're in and what the people are looking for. You got the popular vote, but the teachers were maybe looking for something that fits into where they wanted it to be. And so sometimes I think it's important that we look out of the box and we look at the big picture and we do take risks. But at school, it's very rare that we're encouraged to be able to do that. Some of the biggest hitters in the world had to remove themselves from that environment and go their own way. And that's how change happens, from out-of-the-box thinking. Aziza, you haven't said much today. Before we go to Amasha and Stephen on this, what's your thoughts on that? Because we had to console Maya quite a lot on her thoughts about doing stuff that doesn't get recognized by anybody apart from a handful of friends.
Yeah, it was hard for me because I come from the emotion side of it, basically because I'm her mother. I'm not saying that you don't, you're the father, but I think you're more rational in that sense where we balance out. So I kept mostly quiet until I calmed down and not have any bias information towards, sharing it with Maya. I didn't want to have any biasness when I share my thoughts with her.
So where does that go to school producing the students that become the managers that work into organizations? From what you experienced with our daughter, I'm going to throw this in a moment to Almasa and to Stephen as well. And for anybody who wants to leave comments in the sections on the comments on the page, we're very welcome to do that too. What was missing from your school childhood, or what can we still see missing that doesn't produce the leadership that's got an open mind, the willingness to make risks and encourage other people to be able to do that? What's your thoughts on that?
When it was my 20,000 years ago when I was in school, it was very much military. And coming from the country that I'm from, it's a very military style country where you do this and then you get this, and you do this and otherwise you get that. It's how I was raised. So coming to raise Maya, where the British curriculum is so different, and you are very creative yourself. So I had to literally retrain myself, but not lose the slight discipline in not allowing her to go. How do I say it properly? To not stop her creativity, but yet not focus on the for school where it's a must and it's compulsory to finish the school and blah, blah, blah. And then at the same time, be creative. And if the teachers can't see it, well, tough on them, because that's what they're losing out. They, as you always say, schools are just organizations where they create factory workers. So I don't know what else to say about this topic.
Well, I'm going to throw that and take that to share with our other people on the panel, because we're talking about the empowerment of young people to one day become future leaders, and the challenges that get knocked out of them, certainly up to the stage of middle management, which for me maybe never want to work with an organization internally again. Almasa, I know, has felt the same way. That's why she's entrepreneurial. But you've got Nitin, who was on earlier, who runs a very successful organization, and Stephen, who's on our panel right now, who has run country-sized organizations. What is missing in that process? And is it fear of teachers and trainers and mentors not to bring out the very best and empower the people on the way up? Almasa, do you want to give your thoughts on that before we go to Stephen?
Sure. So I think, the teacher most of the time are trapped within a curriculum that is imposed by the structure of the school they are working in. And if it doesn't align with the talent and the spirit and personality of the students, they just do their job, I would say, mechanically, and they don't give space. They don't give space for the people to express their real talents and skills. So, that's why you have school like Montessori or new systems that are put into place where it can really match a different way of teaching, thinking, and behaving. I personally teach French. I have students from 2 years old, and I always customize my lessons to the students' needs and personality, because I taught the way I would have loved to be taught. And I left school. I come from a very conservative background with a Catholic school, and left home at 17 with the minimum. I pledged to have a PhD at University of Life, and that's it.
I understand that completely. I think that's an important point. Stephen, before we go to Zara, who's just joined us on stage and was on earlier, he doesn't say much, but when he does say it, it's quite impactful. Stephen, what's your thoughts on that? Because you have experience working with lots of different nationalities and at the sharpest possible way, which is dealing with lives in the army and in decision-making when it comes to billions of dollars. What's missing from the people that get to the top, or what is it that's missing from the people that don't get to the top, in your opinion?
The people at the top that I know, and please accept, it's a relatively small number, at most no more than a couple of hundred people globally. So if we look at the people in the middle and lower hierarchies, then what's missing, I don't know whether it's a fear from their younger days, but they don't like change to the point where they will defend to the death something that is indefensible and needs changing. They'll complain daily that things have to change, it's not fair, that I have to work too many hours, etc. But you go to them and say, okay, looking at the way this is organized, we can strip out 2/3 of what you do and still get the same result. Suddenly there's 1,000,001 reasons why all of those things you want to strip out can't be done, must be done.
Yeah.
That is exactly what we talked about yesterday at the dinner table, isn't it, Dave? Where a lot of people are just afraid for change, and they're just stuck in that box where this is what they're comfortable, this is what they are raised with, and if it's different, they're like, but if I do something different, are you saying that what I say and what I preach and what I know are just wrong?
Now let me just flip my conversation there, because I completely agree with, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, Aziza. The people at the top, I think what they have is a greater willingness to be uncertain in the majority of cases. You get people who are chief execs or divisional directors who actually are incredibly certain about what they're doing and they like things to be 100%. But the people that are above them, the national level communicators, the senior politicians that survive, and others, they like, or they're prepared to accept high levels of uncertainty. And I think the lower one goes in the organizations, the more people want certainty in their lives. And if there is a difference, it's that certainty.
That makes perfect sense. And I think that's true in any walk of life. The thing that sells best is certainty. When you want to work with a client or an organization, you check out their trust, credibility, and you see, am I going to get what it says on the tin? But I think that's not what makes changes. That's not what makes the world better. The world gets better when people take risks and say, I'm going to do something different. But it's just that support structure that everybody needs to be able to raise their game to that level. I think that would be the thing. If anything, we should be looking to encourage in more people.
And it's not just the individual at the top making those changes. It's at every level. And that's, your question was, what do you see as missing in people? And I see it as almost the opposite, that I've not thought about this particular topic, so I'm struggling for the words for a little bit, but it's on the lines of the higher one gets, it's not that you have something that others don't, it's that you might have less need for that certainty the higher one gets.
I think, and a lot of that is also the accountability of the people around you. The higher you get, it's only the public, and you generally don't deal with them so much. So maybe that's the thing that makes a difference. I've got a friend of mine who's just joined the group, Jeff Smith, who's another top decision maker. I don't know if Jeff actually wants to join us or say anything this week, or he's just checking in how things are going.
Can I just ask something? Sorry, can I just ask something? Do you think that the top people are, like the really, really top people, find it difficult to change because of generation? Different generation, different ways, and that's like deeper. For us,
No, I think it's actually almost the opposite. The very, very top people, they will keep doing the things that they find are success, make them a success, and that tends to be flexibility, coming up with new ideas, accepting new strategies, new programs, and as long as they continue to generate success, they will keep adapting to those programs. So the meta skill is adaptability, and that gets passed on generation to generation. I think that's your point. So the top 1%, the thing that they believe is that they will, as a family, survive because they will adapt to circumstances and to stay on top. I think the lower down one gets, the less willingness there is to adapt to circumstance or to put in the time and effort to be able to adapt.
I think a large amount of that, and it opens up a whole new can of worms, which is a fascinating way to look at it for potentially next week, is if you are of those people who are in the elite and decision-making process, then you know what it's like to be on top of a hill. For anybody who doesn't get to be anywhere near the top of it, you're only going to see what people do around you. And that means it's like when Tony Robbins says about the power of 7, the 7 people closest to you, you will be the average of them throughout your entire life. If your 7 people are really big decision makers doing incredible things around the world, then it raises your game. If the people around you are going through all sorts of divorces and challenging about finances and unhappy, you'll be average of them. So many ways it will be breeding, grooming, positioning, inheritance, and those things will make a big difference towards the decision-making process. As you mentioned then, Stephen.
I think you've covered, I would completely concur. I had to personally raise my game consciously 3 times in my life. The first time, and my first 10, 15 years, the most I got to manage was about 30 people and budgets of a few millions a year. And then overnight, I went to a couple of hundred people, and that meant a change of game. A couple of years later in the same role, I ended up not having the budget. It wasn't my money to spend, but I was the one that decided how it needed to be spent. So as the chief strategist, for about 13 billion a year. And that needed a change of game because there's an awful lot of players that needed to be moved in particular directions. And then finally, when I got into the military role, I had to change my game significantly to be able to operate at that level with both the president, well, 2 presidents in the mix.
I look forward to finding out more about that. We will have this conversation separately, I'm sure, anyway. And it's been a pleasure having an insight into the difference it makes, because a lot of the conversations we have with people in the group are very similar, but not often with case studies that they're willing to share that have relevance and can be understood by everybody. So you've really opened up a lot with that. And I really appreciate your time on that, Stephen. And of course, Almasa, as always, it's good to see the tech was working for you this time to be able to get the things that we wanted to know about the entrepreneurial side. We respect everybody's time, and we try and limit this to about an hour or so of a session because it is a Sunday. I know that everybody wants to go off and do Sunday-like things like watching Netflix or going out in the park or having their dinner or even talking to their family if you have to, which is a pleasure sometimes as well. So I'm going to kind of put the session to bed there. I'm going to thank everybody for being on the stage and everybody who joined us. I'm going to ask 2 things. First of all, please feel free to join our Turbo group. It's a WhatsApp group. It's called Turbocharge Your Career. We do 5-day challenges to help you to raise your game. It's absolutely free, but we've got a big session coming up soon where we're going to help people to become paid speakers, and you definitely want to know about that. So join. The details will be inside the comment section. Just ask and apply to join, and as long as you're not a bot and you're not a serial killer, then you should be okay to join us. The other thing is, if you leave any comments you have on your experience today, that'd be very useful, more than you would know, to be able to get other people to come and join us in future sessions. And feel free to put down some comments on what you think should be our future subjects for our debates and our conversations that we have every single Sunday. So with that, I'm going to thank Stephen. I'm going to thank Almasa. I don't need to thank Aziza, but I will every single day of my life because she's changed it in a way that I always thank her because she scares me, because she's my wife and I love her very much. And most of all, thank you for being on the stage. Adnan, here we go. Say, Adnan wants to join us on stage and say hi, just as I'm summing up everything. Adnan,
No, I am so sorry. It is our daughter's birthday tomorrow.
Oh, that's true.
And we are doing a weekend, and I'm so sorry, guys. It's 2:10 already.
Adnan, I apologize on behalf of my wife, who scares me a huge amount. The answer is no, but just please feel free to join us and join our WhatsApp group. We'd love to know more from you anyway. But let's put this to bed. This is being recorded, so if you missed anything, as long as the recording comes through properly, I'll put it onto YouTube and share in this group where you can follow the entire discussion, and feel free to share that with other people. Meanwhile, it's been a pleasure having you here on this session. I hope you got some value out of it. I love the contributions. They've made me think a lot about management at the highest level, and also what needs to be done to make organizations function much more effectively in the future. We will return to this conversation and this subject. But on behalf of everybody here and everybody who's been here all the way through, I'd like to say have an amazing Sunday. Thank you for joining Speak on Stage. And remember, whatever you're doing, jump and grow wings on the way down. Thank you so much for your time. Take it easy and cheers. Bye-bye.